welcome to my first debunk video, and today we're going to start from the entire beginning of what it means to be a scientist, aka the identity of a scientist. And with us today is going to be the man who knows everything, independent physicist, biochemist, research scientist, mortar man, medic. Where was I? Oh yeah, today we're going to be getting that from JM Truth. Who is a scientist and what do they do? Before we begin, I first like to say that the background music is to try to wash out the background music on JM's video because I don't want to get falsely copyrighted. Also, I decided to remove the channel name and the website, and I'm going to put that in the description instead. Again, this is to prevent any false copyright claims. You can check the website yourself. In fact, I advise you to do so because that way you understand where there are a few problems with the way this guy thinks. Also, please note that the videos and the websites that I use, even the books that I use as sources, will be placed in the description below, just so that you know and just so that you can follow along with my research. Thanks guys, and enjoy the show.
Hi guys, my name is Joshua Michael of jamtruth.com and you're watching Setting the Record Straight.
Yeah, we're going to set the record straight again then, because you really didn't do a good job doing that.
So today I wanted to chat with you and I'm just going to explain this to you, and I'm only going to cover this one time because after this, if people can say whatever they want to. I'm not going to argue about it. I've explained it. I've done it. You're welcome to go and do your own research on this topic.
Yeah, we're welcome to do our research. And as a student of science, especially, I'm doing that research actively, in fact. And I can tell you that what you're going to say next is wrong. Well, not wrong, but not the complete picture either. Let me not spoil it for the audience and continue.
I've had friends and people say, Josh, how are you calling yourself a physicist? You're a medic. You did this, you did that, but you were never a scientist.
Now, while I don't agree with that particular sentiment, I have to say that they are actually on the right track, because there are a few things there that you need to do in order to at least know that you are a physicist, or you can call yourself a physicist. JM, most of those things that you need to do, you've not done them, and you'll know what they are soon.
Yes, well, technically, the definition of a scientist is somebody who does scientific experiments.
And this is where I get to call you out. That's not the full picture. You're right, scientists do experiments all the time, but that's not all. Try again.
Okay? The definition of a physicist, or a physics scientist, is somebody who does physics experiments.
Wrong again. A physicist is a person who studies physics, which in and of itself is actually Latin for the word nature. Therefore, if you look at it well and you want to use it etymologically, a physicist is a person who studies the natural world in any way, shape, or form. That includes using math to try to describe nature. I'm starting to suspect that you weren't the one who did the research. I did, I know.
That's as simple as it is, guys. It's not rocket science.
Oh, the irony.
Now, I've had brainiacs tell me, oh my God, you don't have a degree in physics. You're not a physicist. A degree does not dictate or stipulate whether or not somebody is a physicist or a scientist.
Now, apart from the way you're making fun of those guys, you're still partly correct. But again, that's just not all the pieces of the puzzle. Yes, you don't need a degree to call yourself a scientist, but there's still a lot of boxes you need to check before you can actually beat your chest and boldly say that you are a scientist.
Okay, I have a Master's of Science degree. Okay, now that in and of itself doesn't make me a scientist. My science degree, my Master's of Science, is in Instructional Design and Technology.
Wow. A Master's of Science degree in a course that I frankly will not call a science. It's like as if it's just a fancy name being moved around in the flat earth community to try to make him seem like he is an authority figure in science, when all it shows that he's a good instructor. See the hypocrisy there?
Folks, that word instructional is because the degree stipulates me as an instructor, or working with instructional material to design instructional material for instructors. Okay? You can't design instructional material without also being an instructor. That's part of the instructional design and technology course. It's an instructor who binds or combines, brings together both design and technology for the purposes of instruction. Okay? That's the proper definition of an instructional design and technology course. Okay?
Now, while I don't know much about instructional design and technology, I do know that the school is not necessarily a science-based school. It's a school that prides itself on entertainment, communication, and the media, and not on the natural sciences. And this basically means that your Master's of Science is just a fancy name used to describe something that can vaguely be represented with a scientific lens, but it's not science in that regard. But I can accept your explanation for it since I don't know much about it. But here's where the kicker starts.
So, but I have actually been a research scientist for, 15 years, guys. Ever since 2001, I've always looked into different things and researched things out.
Being a research scientist is more than just looking into stuff. Being a research scientist is actually more about researching different developments within the scientific field to help improve upon the knowledge of science that we already have and attain. Research scientists tend to publish different papers, put them in reputable journals, and actually feed the knowledge of humanity and make it grow. Being a research scientist also involves working with different research organizations. Even if you're an independent researcher, you will work with different organizations. I don't think you do that, JM.
For part of my time, I started studying Hebrew. Because I've studied Hebrew doesn't make me Jewish, and I'm not Jewish.
Yeah. You study Hebrew, you become a Jew. Says nobody ever. The same way I watch a lot of anime and I like to learn Japanese. That doesn't make me Japanese. It just means that I'm part of the anime subculture now. JM, you should know that. At least you went through an education system, so you know how education works.
So, also, people will say, well, you don't have a physics degree, you're not a physicist. Well, then you could say because you don't have an art degree, you're not an artist. Or because you don't have a music degree, you're not a musician. Folks, like I said, a degree does not stipulate the course of study that somebody's in. It only stipulates the level of education that person has within that particular field.
Now, it's in my very right to call out two fallacies. The first fallacy is the ad nauseum fallacy, because you keep on banging on about not needing a degree to be a scientist. We get it. You don't need a degree. Try to explain why you don't need a degree rather than continuing to repeat it to make it true. Secondly, you're committing the equivocation fallacy because you're equating science with music and art. Now, while you don't necessarily need a degree in music and art, you still have to prove yourself. You still need the proper training, and you still need to understand the basics and the complexities of music and art. That way you can be able to produce works that end up showing the audience that you know what you're doing. The same thing with science, JM. You need training, and not just flat earth training. You need proper training. You don't have that, and I can show you that you don't have that. All you need to do is just to look at your previous videos, and you see, science requires a lot of training and a lot of background information before you know how to work in the larger society as a scientist. And that's another point you've fallen short. You lack training. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jane.
Okay, but Newton and Einstein, they didn't have degrees in physics, and they're all accepted as instructors in those fields. So
actually, Newton got a bachelor's and a master's of arts in natural philosophy, which was the predecessor to the sciences at that time. He also was a fellow of the Royal Society and ended up becoming the president of the Royal Society, and he made lasting contributions to the world of physics. Einstein got a bachelor's degree in math, and he got a teaching diploma for math and physics, which basically makes him a teacher in physics. But because of his failed job, he had to take a job at the Swiss patent office. But in the end, he still made strides in physics. So your point?
well, again, one doesn't have anything to do with the other. Okay, so I just wanted to clear that up because I've had friends and family ask me, how is it you are calling yourself a physicist? Well, because I do physics experiments. That's how I'm calling myself a physicist, as does every physicist on the earth. Okay.
Wait. So Google and other search engines are wrong, even though they're expert databases. Okay. And besides, where do theoretical physicists belong if they are not physicists, according to your definition?
If you thought I was going to say on the planet, I gotcha. Okay, anyway, that's the bottom line, folks. My friend Nathan Thompson on Facebook, he's also a physicist. He does physics experiments. Rob Skiba, also a physicist. Now, they may not classify themselves as such, but that is the definition, the proper definition of a scientist is somebody who does scientific experiments, okay, using the scientific method.
And there we at least get partially to the crux of the matter. By redefining what a scientist is, he's able to add his flat earth buddies into the scientific mix, making everyone who does flat earth experiments a scientist, even though many of them don't even understand the first thing about what science actually is. But then again, they're obviously going to do that, and it's appalling at times how people try to put themselves into a place of authority so that they can feel like they're better than others. That's not how science works, JM, and that's not how scientists do their work. We're collaborators, and we try to work with everybody.
Folks, you can go look at.
We did. I got the information. Unless this isn't where you want me to get my information. So where do you want me to look?
That up. I do have a course of study called Science and the Scientific Method, and then also Science and the Pseudoscience, and where I will cover in a little more depth those things. But I wanted to.
Yeah, I'm not really going to watch that, and not because I have any form of cognitive dissonance or whatever you want to pull at me, but because what you're going to say is not in line with what science says, and is not in line with reality. And I know because I'm also studying this stuff to get a degree.
Kind of just touch base and explain that because I'm tired of hearing people or having people ask me, how are you calling yourself a scientist? Because I do scientific experiments, that's how. That's the definition. Go look it up. Anyway, that's all for now, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and got something out of it.
Yeah, I got something out of it. I got that you would actually stoop so low as to try to redefine what a scientist is just so that you can call yourself a scientist. And this is one of the primary reasons why we call you a science denier, because you're trying to deny something whereas you're trying to put yourself into that seat of authority. That's not how people behave, that's not how society works, and that's not how you put yourself there as a respectable human being, JM. So please stop that. that's not going to help you anywhere. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is my first video, well, my first debunk video, and I hope you liked it. Before I end, I want to make an announcement. As a member of the Royal Society of Chemistry, I love chemistry since I'm even studying a course subsidiary of chemistry. But I am seeing the world around me, and I am seeing the depletion of our resources, especially the rare earth metals, which are very valuable in our semiconductor and electronics industry. The more we use them up, the less of them there will be, and the less chances there are for us to make more breakthroughs in chemistry or electronics. So I am imploring you that you go to the website, which is linked in the description, and try to spread the message far and wide. If you have any unused electronics, please try to donate them to your local lab or to your local charity, so that we can bring together a world of research again that will be useful for the next generation. Thank you, and please like, subscribe, ring that bell, because I can be a bit unpredictable, and I'll see you within the next month or two.